Hello and welcome to another Scardcast tactical video. Today we look at the Harlequins once again and we talk about the role and use of the enigmatic Voidweaver, the heaviest hitter of the Harlequin tanks. Let's jump right in. Hello and welcome to another Scardcast tactical video. Today we continue our look at the Harlequin Codex with the look at the enigmatic Voidweaver. Now the Voidweaver is the heavy artillery tank of the Harlequins. Now before all this gets started, this is a two-part series or video where I first talk about what a Voidweaver is and about its stats, and then we talk about different roles and tactics of using it inside a Harlequin army or as an allied force for another army in and of itself. Now, of course, if you're tuning in, we'll be doing this in conjunction with Spikebits and the Long War, so check the links down below, become a patron today, join the Long War in order to get some exclusive content for you only, supporters of the channel and supporters of Spikebits and all that good stuff. So, let's jump right in. The Voidweaver. Sleek and sinister, Voidweavers swoop into battle with balletic grace, like ballet. Boasting a veritable arsenal of heavy weaponry, these gunships leave flaming devastation in their wake. Their every salvo sees enemies punched off their feet in sprays of blood as storms of shuriken scream through the air. Armored vehicles that catch the attention of the craft's gunner are vaporized in conflagration of prismatic light, or suffer sudden catastrophic systems failure under a barrage of haywire energy. Even those enemies who avoid the violent fury of the Voidweaver's attack run are not safe, for its aft cannon lays down a withering hail of fire to butcher those left cowering in its wake. So the Voidweaver is, in layman's terms, a sort of Ravager, but for the Harlequins. So it's a heavy tank, it's a skimmer. So how heavy is this skimmer? Well, it's 75 points, so it's a little bit more expensive than the Starweaver, which we covered on our last video in the Harlequin series. And it's ballistic skill 4. It's got front, side, and rear armor of 10, so it's like a paperweight. And it's only got 2 hull points, so it's not exactly the toughest cookie out there. It is a vehicle which is a skimmer. It is fast, and it is open-topped, which means it can move 12 and shoot 2 guns, or move 6 and shoot all its guns, and it's a skimmer, so it can move over terrain and whatnot, and it's one Voidweaver. That's it. That's the composition. Now it has a couple of different war gear. So, like most Harlequins, it has, well, not most Harlequins, but it has a haywire cannon, and a haywire cannon is a ranged shooting weapon, kind of like the haywire blaster that the Dark Eldar Scourge can use. But the haywire cannon is a 24-inch range, strength 4, AP 4, heavy 1 blast haywire gun. So it is basic loadout. It's got an effective 40-inch range, so 36-inch range, so 24 plus the movement at 12. Blast, small blast, haywire, strength 4, AP 4. So even against troops, it could be relatively useful. Strength 4, AP 4 against things like scouts or guardsmen or orcs that have anything that armor 4 plus or lower. But against a tank, it can deal some damage with its 1 haywire shot. Now, because it's only 1 haywire shot, means it's probably going to do 1 hull point. That's if it hits, and if it doesn't roll a 1. And if it does a pen, it can't really blow it up. It can just help incapacitate the tank. So you'd need more than one to really do some damage with that sort of gun. Now, it does come with 2 shuriken cannons. One is underslung, and one is on the back of the tank. Now, it has a cool special rule, which we'll touch on in a second. It does have holo fields, which means that it comes with a 5+ invulnerable save, which is kind of handy. It's kind of like a flicker field, which is awesome. And it comes with mirage launchers. Mirage launchers are a vehicle upgrade. Once per game, when being shot at, the tank can activate its mirage launchers. It gives it a 4+ invulnerable save for the rest of the turn, and then it doesn't count as jinking. So instead of jinking, you can activate the mirage launchers and hope that it survives, so that next turn he can still fire at full effect, even though the enemy was shooting at it. Very good against ignore cover weapons. Very good in a turn where you're maneuvering to get into a position that then you need to be able to shoot. So that's the kind of thing that you have to keep in mind. As for special rules, it causes fear. So against armies that are not fearless, and they shall know no fear, make sure you remember to ask your opponent to take that fear test every combat phase. Remember, a vehicle that moves is weapon skill 1, so normally you get hit on 3s in combat, but failing a fear test reduces your weapon skill to 1, which means they'd get hit on 4s, which would drastically increase the survivability of the tank in combat, especially when it only has a rear armor of 10. Now, the special rule it has for its rear shuriken cannon is called aft weapon. Whenever a Void Weaver shoots, the shuriken cannon mounted on its aft can shoot at a different target to the Void Weaver's other weapons. The shuriken cannons mounted on the Void Weaver's aft can only target units that are in the Void Weaver's rear armor facing. So, it has the guns at the front, the gun on the turret at the top. It has a cannon at the bottom, and it has a cannon that's pointed backwards. And its special rule is it can just shoot at anything behind it in its rear arc, which is pretty cool. Which means you can have the shuriken cannon and the haywire cannon shoot at something, while the aft cannon shoots at something else, like picking off the odd model here or there. All in all, it's kind of cool, actually. It's kind of neat. So, if you were to kind of, fly sideways at the enemy, you kind of pick off different targets, which would be kind of interesting. But it opens up like really kind of like a tactical thing that we haven't really seen in other armies at all. Kind of fly up, and you can fly over the enemy and shoot the enemy in front of them and shoot the enemy behind them. So it's kind of neat. I kind of like it. And, it's basically you add 5 points to the Star Weaver, lose the model capacity, and add a heavier gun on top, and then add like a gun that can shoot at different targets. So it's got split fire, and it's got a haywire gun, and it's got a couple of shuriken cannons, and it's got an invulnerable save. Overall, it's not a horrible tank, but it's only 2 hull points, so don't expect it to be like a Land Raider. It's probably going to die at some point in the battle. Now, it does have a few options. The first option is that it can include up to 2 additional Void Weavers for 75 points each. That's right, you can squadron them. I don't think I ever would squadron them because they're so flimsy, and I'd like to take other things. But if you did want to take a big unit of 3, go right ahead. You can take multiple units. And a model can replace its haywire cannon with something called a prismatic cannon for 5 points. Now, the prismatic cannon is a very interesting weapon. It has 3 fire modes. The first fire mode is called the dispersed fire mode. All these are 24-inch range, by the way. The dispersed fire mode is strength 3, AP 4, heavy 1, large blast. So it becomes a large blast, AP 4, but it's only strength 3. So very good against hordes. So you can target bigger units of just low toughness models. Another one is called focused. So if you focus the prismatic cannon, it is 24 inches as well. Becomes strength 5, it's AP 3, and it's heavy 1 blast. So it's a very good marine killer, sort of like a disintegrator cannon, but it's AP3 and it's a blast. So if you entice the enemy to, get into a nice little ball by charging into a tank or something, and then pop the Void Weaver out and just pop them with a blast that would knock them all out, it's kind of cool. It also is AP3, so not too shabby against heavily armored targets. The last is called the Lance. The Lance is 24 inches. It is strength 7, it is AP2, and it's heavy 1 lance. So it's pretty much like a lance. It's like a dark lance, but it's only strength 7, which means, instead of you really needing 4s to do most of the damage against tanks, it'll need something like 5s and 6s. And it's only it's AP2 as well, which allows it to potentially blow up the enemy. Now, do I think it's worth the 5-point upgrade? I really do. The biggest reason I do is because if you were to jink with the Void Weaver, I'd like to have an opportunity to shoot with its heavy gun as well. It'd have the 2 shuriken cannons at the back, one at the back, one at the front, but the prismatic cannon on lance mode would allow it to potentially shoot as well, because it's not a blast weapon. Well, you can focus it, so it's not a blast weapon. Whereas if you jink with a haywire cannon, there's no shooting your haywire cannon because it is a blast weapon. So that's, very important to keep in mind. Now, how to use your Void Weaver. Now, tactically, the Void Weaver is more like a scalpel. And in most of the Harlequin formations, a Void Weaver is sort of tax, simply because it's not a unit that you really need, but it's a unit that a lot of these formations require you to take. So, you can keep it really cheap, take 1, don't give it any upgrades, and just fulfill its requirement. Go tank hunting, use it as bait, do something where the other Harlequin units can really do the damage to the enemy unit. If using them as an ally in, the prismatic cannon could be relatively useful depending on your regular opponent. I like the versatility. I like being able to choose to shoot a large blast, a small blast, or a focused lance. And tactically, options in the game really increase the tactical applicability of certain units. Now, in the case of the Void Weaver, you want to make sure that you keep them alive as much as possible to then pounce on the enemy when needed. And don't forget that rear shooting shuriken cannon. Now, leave a comment down below. Have you used a lot of Void Weavers? Have you used no Void Weavers? Do you like them? Do you dislike them? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what you think. And let's start this discussion on the Harlequin Heavy Tank. Other than that, this is Skari, your grateful host. Make sure you check the links down below. Become a Patreon community member today. And Skari, out.